Hey everyone, welcome back to Milwaukee Uncut, a really special episode today on Veterans Day about an organization, a local organization started by Matt McDonnell that has raised over $1 million to help vets and first responders and has put hundreds through their camps in just 4 years. It's an incredible story. I'm joined by the founder, Matt McDonnell, who was deployed in Afghanistan, then medically retired and went on to start Next 18. Also joined by Anthony Zidek of the Milwaukee Fire Department, who went to Camp 22. We're also joined by Correa, a Marine vet who served 8 years, including a tour in Iraq, a Milwaukee native who is now with the Milwaukee Fire Department. So an amazing group, an amazing story. Before diving in, just want to thank our partners for making this possible. Three Sheeps, the Beer Wisconsin Drinks, Nicolay Law, the Midwest law firm, and Drink Wisconsinably Beverage Company. Hope you guys enjoy this one.
I started this in 21, and now I look back 4 years later, and the more I talk about it, I think I built what I needed to stay alive. I was medically retired at the end of 15, started a lawn and snow business when I came back to Wisconsin. I was married, was getting an MBA. I thought I was doing everything right, staying active, using my benefits. And I think where most vets, and I can't speak for first responders, I think where we fall into that trap is you're doing a job your whole life that is people pleasing and fixing and solving problems. And then you get out and it's just, let me just keep doing that. Let me find some structure. Let me find something to keep myself active. And you don't really pay attention to what's going on internally. You're just doing. And then I started to go to some programs and I started to go through some things that I was going through in life. And I really realized pretty quickly I did not have my shit together. The VA at the same time pulled me off some medications from combat. And that basically spiraled me for 2 years. I should be dead. It culminated with my firearm in my mouth 2 weeks after going cold turkey. And that kind of started this 2-year progression of a regression, but also a progression. And now that I've shared that so many times, I realize that that's pretty standard on some level for all of us. You kind of hit that wall and then there's that wake up of like, all right, you're either going to check out or you're going to figure it out. And through the organizations that I went through, all of them are great in the silo of what they do, right? Getting the vet out of isolation. No one was really addressing my root cause of my trauma. And I didn't even know what it was. So I built what I needed. Went back to school, got my master's in social work. And I've spent the past 6 years now building this in some way, shape, or form. And then we ran the first 2 camps in 21, and here we are. Yeah, I built what I needed, and apparently it's at a point now where it's no longer about me.
It's amazing. Can you tell me about kind of the first camp? And Joel, feel free to chime in on maybe what was your reaction? How did you find out about it, and what made you attend?
There's a lot of organizations out there that focus on either military veterans or first responders. This was the first I've ever heard of where they're taking care of all, because they know how important it is for both, because we both deal with similar situations, trauma, PTSD, all of that. I actually went with my boss at the time, first camp, and one story that sticks out with me, he was a little nervous because he's a first responder, did not serve overseas. He's like, I don't feel like I belong. I'm like, hey, it's going to be okay. First camp, day one, within the first 10 minutes of walking around talking to the guys, and he introduced himself as, my name, been in the fire department for 20 years, and his name is Corey. I was like, holy shit, wow. I went overseas, and I'm dealing with what I went through for that deployment. You're a first responder and you're constantly dealing with this trauma over and over again, multiple times a shift for 20 years plus at a time. Like, you are screwed, welcome to this camp. And he immediately felt welcomed, and it made me smile. Then he asked my background, and I was like, I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and now I'm also a firefighter. He goes, holy shit, you are double messed up. But that was the first camp, day one, within the first 10 minutes. And instantly, the bond just started immediately, that group of people. And And then Matt sharing his story right away gave us the courage to open up, and that first camp was amazing.
Matt, what was your reaction after that? You bring a bunch of people together. You probably have no idea how it's going to go as what happens when you start something and do it for the first time. What was that like for you, and what surprised you?
Absolutely terrifying. Not in the sense that I knew I could execute it. I knew that that's like my thing, experiential things. And Next 18 is an experience at the end of the day, right? I think what terrified me was every key component that went into that camp, I facilitated. I paid for everything. I brought everybody in. I ran all of the modules. And I did not have the education that I have right now because I was finishing up my degree. I hadn't been introduced to moral injury. So what the thing was and what it has become is vastly different. And I made the biggest mistake of having 2 camps back to back because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't even know what vicarious trauma was. I didn't know what these 21 individuals were going to dump over 2 weeks. So I went a Monday through Thursday and then a Monday through Thursday. And I had 3 days in between to like regroup, like reset the entire scene and do it again. And I remember at the time that that second Friday, I went out to dinner with my partner at the time. And I remember we were downtown in Milwaukee and I just sat there for 30 minutes. And she looked at me and she went, at one point, she was like, "Are you good?" And I just started crying. And it wasn't anything negative. It was just like 21 people just
Heavy shit, yeah.
dumped. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this right now. Like, where do I go with this? And it's been a maturation since then of like, okay, I'm carrying, and the people that come back, like Corey, we go to absorb people's shit. And it's not just the service, it's mainly childhood. So that for me was like, this is going to be something different than what I thought it was going to be. And now it is way different than what I thought it would be and what this has become. But yeah, those first 2 weeks were like getting kicked repeatedly in the face and just absorbing it and absorbing it. And all I had to do for him was continuously be present, show up, no judgment, because he's me and I am him. We're all flawed. Yeah.
And Tony, what was your first experience like? How did you find out about this? Were you hesitant to go at all? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. I actually didn't even sign up for myself. I signed up for my father-in-law because he went through some stuff after COVID and he was dealing with some stuff. He was a Milwaukee fireman as well. He liked golf, and we knew that he was the type of person that probably wasn't going to go find any kind of help for himself. So Correa was like, sign him up. You know, like he's the one right away because it's really like it'll be perfect for him. What I didn't know was there was a little bit of an application process that went along with this. And I got a phone call because I put all my info in because it was going to be a surprise to my father-in-law. And we went through this interview process. The interviewer goes, "Why didn't you sign up?" And the funny thing is, it's exactly what Correa said. Is I said, it's a military thing, right? I said, I'm not going to, like, what I have going on won't even come close to what these guys have done, right? And she starts asking me these questions, and she goes, well, your initial interview is done. You just got to go fill out your application. I was like, I don't know. I guess I'm filling out the application, right? And to echo what Correa was saying is when you finally get there, it all gets to the way it's said. Like I said, we are all in this together, and I had guys that, like you said, came up to me afterwards and was like, man, that's rough, right? Like, and I said, well, not compared to what you did. And they're like, there is no comparing, right? We all are doing it together. So I actually, mine wasn't even for me. I initially just went for my father-in-law.
So you didn't think you needed to go, or you didn't think you belonged, essentially?
Both, actually. I thought I was handling my stuff pretty well. I started my career off pretty blessed and not having too wildly out there runs, but I had a handful that I definitely thought I handled pretty well and found out after going through camp that I wasn't. The biggest one I think is like my wife. I wasn't gonna go because money wasn't quite right for me at the time, and I was like, oh, maybe I don't really need to go. And my wife said, she goes, "You're going." She goes, I'm dropping you off at the airport. Like, you're gonna go. And she says, when I came back, I didn't come back the same person. I came back better husband, better father. I said I use this stuff all the time. It was great.
What happened for you there?
I think I was sold on the first day. I hearing some of the modules and realizing that, like, I had a good childhood. I was blessed enough not to have the abuse and all the other stuff, but I found out that I did have some stuff in my background that I'd kind of suppressed and I didn't think was affecting me. And the very first day, I remember Matt going through one of the modules, and I was just like, yup, this is me. Like, and then you'd turn to the next page and be like, that's me too. And here we go, like, it was, and then, like, and then not only to, like, be able to sit there and go, yep, that's me, for them to provide you with tools in the toolbox, right? Of like, you should try this. And they even said, like, if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Try something else. Here's another idea. And I use that all the time. And I actually roll that into my daughter. Me and Matt have talked extensively on it. My daughter had some behavioral health issue stuff going on. We found out she does her meditation every day. Her and I have our yoga mats, and we do our yoga in the morning together. She journals. I mean, so I don't think it's a ripple. Matt's making a wake, right? This is going so far beyond first responders and veterans, right? For me to be able to take this to my family and see a change in my daughter, an active change in my daughter, it's been awesome. So my wife sits and talks. She sat and talked at the last golf outing. It'll bring her to tears of the changes that I've made for myself and personally.
That's amazing. And talking about your daughter and your family, can you tell us about these bracelets a little bit?
Yeah, so my daughter Fiona started Fiona's bracelets. We were out one night one day. Every Sunday we try to take the kids out somewhere, and she brought her rubber bands with her to keep herself occupied while we hung out. And she had a bunch of people coming up to her making requests to make different colors, and they would give her money. And this is my daughter in a nutshell. She goes, "Dad, do you think we can donate this somewhere?" I said, "Yeah, so where do you want to donate it to?" My wife's a Shriners patient, so she was a Shriners Children. She's an amputee. And I said, like, "Do you want to go to, like, the Shriners?" And she goes, "I think the Shriners is big enough." She goes, "What if we give it to Next 18? I said, "Yeah, that's fine. So we can donate the $60 over there, right, that she made." And then you can see her little gears are turning, and she goes, "Well, can I start a business?" I said, "Sure, we can start a business." She goes, "Can we donate all the money to Next 18? I said, "Yeah, sure, we can do this." And she's 7, so I thought this was going to be a flash of light. She got home and she started cranking out bracelets. She was doing all the things. I got a hold of Matt. Matt's like, "Yeah, let's do this," right? So we've been making these bracelets. We're in the early stages right now, but Fiona's bracelets is hard at work because she's recruited me and my wife now, and Grandma and Grandpa in Florida are making them for her. So she's got a little production line.
Love it. Is there an Instagram page or a website or anything?
Not yet, but we're working on it.
Okay.
We're getting there. We'll find that eventually.
We'll keep people posted on here.
For sure.
Joel, what were the main differences that your family and friends saw of you pre-camp to post-camp?
Excuse me. I would say pre-camp, and I shared this with Matt. I'm not a person I'm a private person. So whenever I struggle through something or going through something, I kind of keep it to myself. My experiences overseas, not many people know about it, or I just don't open up. The way I saw the men and women at that camp open up, and the way I seen Matt open up, gave me the courage to, should I say, share my story that I've never done. I mean, I came back from Iraq in 2005, so this year's our 20-year anniversary, and not until this camp is when I actually shared my story and the struggles that I've been going through and still go through.
So you had that all bottled up for 17-ish years, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. My thing was, if you're not a Marine and you weren't there with me, you're not going to understand. And that's pretty much that's how I lived my life. And I'm still a private person, but after that camp, I feel the courage. I'm more vulnerable. I'm not afraid to let people know that I'm diagnosed with PTSD. I'm not afraid to let people know that I'm diagnosed with traumatic brain injury, with my experiences that I experienced out there. My concentration, my focus, my memory, it all sucks. But after that camp, I'm not afraid to let people know that, share that. I don't mind sharing that anymore. So the camp has helped me, like Dan said, not only did we learn how to golf, because I knew nothing about golf, I didn't even care for golf, but after the camp, I understand the game now and I actually enjoy it. But the tools they gave us to deal with mental health and the yoga and the breath work and everything that we did during that camp, we are still using to this day. And like you said, it could trickle down to your family. And they have a better understanding of why I am the way I am, why I sit in certain areas at a restaurant, why I don't like my back towards crowds. So they have a better understanding why I am the person that I am. And I'm not afraid to let people know anymore.
One thing, I got to go to the camp and observe it at the Bowl a couple of years ago or a few years ago, and just getting to know you, Matt. I think one of the main things is going to camp. It's not a Band-Aid solution. You provide people with ongoing support. It's not like a one and done. You go for a few days, you feel good after, and then tend to revert back. It seems like, yeah, you're not making a ripple, you're making a wave. Can you talk about the ongoing support element and how important that is?
Yeah, at the end of the day, the core mission is the camps. I think what I learned from the other organizations that I went to is they were lacking on the back end. If I went through a camp and there was 20 of us, there was no call roster given out. There was no alumni page. There was no alumni resources. And again, that went to you're just doing this thing and you're giving me something, and that's great. But when I go home, nothing changes. I would argue some of us go deeper into the hole because we're back into the isolation and nothing really changed. It was just a vacation. So for me, it was, how do we create something that creates physical community? And how do we create something that has ongoing outreach to our people? Because, the stickiness factor, right? It's cool to go to a thing, but to have that thing be a part of your life for the rest of your life, to walk with you, is exponentially important in my mind. Currently, we have weekly guided meditation, and that's virtual. So our 362 alumni can hop on every Monday night through Teams. And either myself or one or two of my other teammates will lead about an 18-minute guided meditation. We teach that at camp, so we want it to be there so that when you're 2 years up post-camp, hey, you know what, I haven't done meditation, I want to get back into it. It's always going to be there for you. Starting next year, we're bringing back some of our clinicians, and these individuals are going to hop on once a month, quarterly. And 1 month they're going to talk about developmental trauma. The next month it's going to be about nutrition. The next month it'll be about moral injury. We want to create something weekly. We want to create something multiple times a week so that when the horse wants to come for a drink of water, the trough is there, right? Constantly engaging them, constantly having them have touch points where they can connect. We have group chats for every camp, and those group chats have definitely kept people alive. I have seen real time when someone is in crisis from a certain camp, and the 3 or 4 alumni that were there as peer support and our staff sees that and reaches out to them. And within 5 minutes of someone saying, I'm at risk, my staff is reaching out to them, and they're reaching out to each other, and those people are still here. It's community, which, especially on the veteran side, we lose, right? Anthony, Joel, as firefighters, I think there's always that brotherhood that exists. And on some levels that exists in the veteran space. I don't talk to 98% of the platoon that I deployed with. We're geographically displaced, and I don't even know where any of them are. However, I have had guys come through the camp that deployed with us. So there's the ability to have that connection. And I think for us, the long-term thing is if we're going to be at TPC Boston, we're going to have 12 participants from the Boston area. And if we're there for 5 years, now we've got 60, because the yoga instructor, the golf instructors, eventually the clinician are all from those areas. And now you have a physical community, and we have, you know, maybe 30 of those around the country. That's what keeps people alive. In the clinical realm, isolation is the number one cause of suicidality in the world. So if we can create an environment where we're single-handedly like creating physical communities across the country that don't exist, in my mind, that's gonna reduce the number of us checking out.
Mm-hmm. And can you touch on the growth of the organization? It's pretty rare that a grassroots organization started in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, has accomplished everything you guys have in the last few years, have partners with the tour, have partners with Fan Duel, getting all that national recognition, and in really growing this thing.
Yeah. That's the hardest question to answer because I'm in the middle of it. But when I look at Joel and I look at Anthony, when I talk to you and you say watching it grow, it's been exponential. It's been an 89-degree trajectory since day one. I think once an organization or someone sees what we're doing, understands what it is, that's all we need to do. When you come to the camp and you realize that golf is just the vehicle and it's really about addressing the root causes of what most adults are dealing with, that doesn't exist and people want to be a part of that. Again, I built what I needed. I didn't realize that I think the bulk of the adults in this country need it. Yeah.
Tony, Joel, do you have anything to add onto that, the growth element of the organization?
I think the growth comes through, like you said, the staff. I said, like you said, it is not just a 4-day camp. It is something that's all around us. So it did look like Correa, or he was one of my seniors when I first came on. And the fire department alone, we unfortunately have this bury it mentality to suck it up and be better, and to have strong people like Correa go, that's not acceptable anymore. We can't just sit on this. And I said I recently had a traumatic run where we always kind of congregate afterwards and try to debrief ourselves as best we can. And I flat out said, I said, well, add that one to the Rolodex for my therapy session this week. And right away my buddy looks at me and goes, you go to therapy? I said, all the time, man. I said, and I would have never done that if it wasn't for Next 18. And coincidentally, 3 days later, he came up to me. He goes, where do you go for therapy? He goes, it's been sticking with me. He goes, I got in a fight with the wife at home. Things aren't good right now. And if I wouldn't have stepped up in a large group of guys that typically we would have sat back and said, suck it up and deal with it on your own. If I wouldn't have said that, it might not have triggered him to now reach out. And I think he filled out an application for Next 18, right? Like the growth is that we all are in this, right? That I was down in Florida, I said, just this past week, and I noticed my Uber driver had a canine patch, and he ends up being, he was like a bomb dog tech. He went on Next 18's app and started filling stuff out, and he goes, I'm going to send this to my unit. You know, like we're growing.
And we're pretty lucky, at least in the Milwaukee Fire Department, because we have a department, a chief, assistant chiefs that support, including our local 215 union, that support Next 18, and they support and they actually care about mental health. So they're doing a very nice job talking about mental health and trying to get rid of that stigma that, hey, no, I'm a big bad firefighter, or I'm in the military, I can't talk about this. Just suck it up. That whole suck it up attitude, little by little, I could see it changing. And mental health we're actually talking about it a lot more, and it makes it easier. And it's cool sitting at the kitchen table, and now we have over 30 firefighters. Milwaukee firefighters have gone through this camp. And I've talked to a bunch before they go, and they're like, I'm really excited to learn more golf. And I'm smiling on the inside like, you have no idea what's going to happen. Yes, you will learn a little golf. But when they come back, they share these stories, and they're like, wow, I learned so much. And they're not even talking about golf anymore. They're talking about all the mental health and all the help they got there. And it's just cool to see that at work.
Yeah, I do want to ask how normal civilians can get involved in the organization. Also, if you all think there's any misconceptions or anything people should be aware of about vets and first responders.
I think the biggest stigma we face is that because of what we've been through, we're different than other people and maybe we're not approachable. And I would argue from what I've witnessed at camp now, right, 4 years in, I feel like I could call myself an expert at some point. The same thing when the civilians come from corporations to watch what we do and they sit in on the developmental trauma. That usually resonates really hard with people from the standpoint of, yeah, I got a lot of stuff from childhood that I'm not addressing, because at the end of the day, yes, we've seen some things that the average person won't. However, clinically speaking, physiologically, when the body experiences trauma, Bree getting attacked in the street is no different than Joelle being in a firefight. Your body processes it in a box. There's only so much emotion, right, that the body can express. So what she goes through is no different than what he goes through internally. And when you start accepting the fact that we're all human, when we all have emotions, we're just a bunch of 5-year-olds dressed as adults trying to figure out how to make it. Nobody has this game figured out. And that, to speak about what you said earlier from the standpoint of like feeling like no one understands, when we start talking and we start bringing the stuff that we are uncomfortable about talking, that's when you really start realizing we're all the same. And the more you talk, the easier it gets.
Joel, Tony, anything to add on that?
My end is of being a veteran, don't be afraid to apply because you are just a first responder. Like Joel's saying, we deal with a lot, and you may not think you need it right now. It all accumulates, I think. And also, like, being able to now be more open with my wife. Again, going back to that run, it took me about a month to kind of navigate through that, and for my wife to now have an idea of, A, what I went through, and B, knowing some of the tools I have. Just right away she said, she goes, well, why don't you get up and do yoga this morning? That's probably a pretty good idea, right? And we started doing that, and so you aren't just a first responder, right? And I said, you may be doing well now, or you may be able to find out better ways to handle it, you know? Don't, just because you're a first responder, there's A, a spot, and B, as it was, when they say judgment-free, it is judgment-free. You can lay anything you want out there, so.
Yeah, just the first responder, I find it hard saying that because, I mean, I have a brand new cub at work right now. She has less than 3 months on. And we experienced a call. We're eating lunch, and she couldn't even eat lunch anymore because she was thinking about that call that we just had an hour before. So first responder, military, we all go through trauma. And first responders, just the first responder, they see trauma 5-10 times a day sometimes. And then we work for 20 plus years. I mean, I would argue that first responders go through more, a lot more, because I'm still dealing with my deployment in 04 to 05. And I went through a lot of stuff over there. But now I'm 14 years in the fire department, everything I've seen, everything he's seen. Now I'm dealing with 2 different things at the same time. And I still have 8 more years to go. So,
with run volume probably only going up at this, like compared to what my dad was on, compared to what we do now, we're taking twice as many runs as they were taking 30 years ago. Yep. So like I said, so we're seeing it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just, if you are thinking about joining or going to a next 18 camp or just seeking help, period, I mean, that stigma, I mean, it's not worth it to bottle it up. It just makes everything worse, a lot worse. So if you need help, talk to someone, get therapy, do whatever you have to do. You got to take care of yourself so you can take care of your family and your friends and the important people in your life.
And Matt, where can people go to learn more and get involved?
Next18.org. We're pretty active on Facebook and Instagram. Our big push for the rest of this year and next year we've been really fortunate. The Tour, Fan Duel, Raymond James, all of these national companies, we haven't really established a strong foothold in Milwaukee because we haven't had to. However, again, going past it's no longer about me, this is a sustainable model. To get there, it's recurring donors, it's businesses in Milwaukee that want to champion what we're doing. We've got a home now at Washington County Golf Course, thanks to a lot of the initiatives from County Executive Josh Showman. We're building the foundation brick by brick, and we're at that point now where it's okay, let's get the pieces in place to get this long term. Staffing, putting pieces in place to be here in 30 years after I'm not here. Recurring donors are big, $10, $15, $18 a month, right? That's a coffee a week. It's working. The more of those that we can get to build out a sustainable budget long term, that's our focus for the rest of the year and next year. So the website, next18.org.
Thank you guys so much for coming on and for all you do. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Having us.